Hitman 3, the end of the World of Assassination trilogy, and likely the last Hitman game we will be getting for a long time. And today I'm going to be letting you guys know what I think of the game and whether or not I recommend you buy it. And real quick, before we get the review started, only 4% of you who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Anyways, back to the review. Now, in the Hitman games, not many people care too much for the story, and it really just serves as a backdrop for the gameplay and sandbox levels. I always found the story of the first two Hitman games vaguely interesting, and I was pretty curious how Hitman 3 was going to wrap up this story arc, and needless to say, I found it pretty satisfying. Obviously, the huge change that really elevates the story and makes its presence more felt were the inclusion of actual moving cutscenes. Hitman 2 didn't have full-fledged cutscenes, and I'm glad they decided to actually have them in Hitman 3 because it makes the story a lot more clear and much easier to understand and become invested in. And the story really does feel a lot more prevalent in this game compared to the first two, and the main drive of the game is the story, so it does a better job of creating a premise around all the locations and levels you play in, which is something the previous games struggled with. And overall, I enjoyed the story. It's still not the most complex or engaging, and the gameplay is still the main draw, but it did exactly what it needed to and provided an interesting plot that gave the player a reason to progress through the game and complete it. And not to spoil the ending or anything, but I found the overall ending to be satisfying and conclusive. Now, pretty much everything gameplay wise in Hitman 3 is resemblant of Hitman 2 and Hitman 1. Movement, combat, stealth, and even the incredibly stupid AI feel exactly the same, and I was really hoping for some new features or mechanics to be implemented, but really the only new change in the gameplay was the addition of the camera, which was cool, but it really doesn't have a lot of use and isn't necessarily the coolest or most innovative gadget to have. But the gunplay is still very basic and uninspired, and going loud is pretty boring and bland in comparison to the stealth. The good thing is that the stealth is great and allows for numerous options and creativity with a plethora of ways to obliterate evil scumbags. Each level has varying ways to kill enemies and different story threads you can follow so you can get close to the target and create an assassination window. That's nothing really new though, just like the first two games, and if you were hoping for some new exciting gameplay features, you won't get that in Hitman 3. But the core and foundation of gameplay from the first two games is still really strong, and even after finishing Hitman 3, I never got bored of it. And it's clear that a majority of IO Interactive's attention was put into creating new and exciting level designs and atmospheres. Each level is very fleshed out and well detailed with tons to explore and discover. And just like the first two games, each level has a ridiculous amount of ways to complete it and has great replayability. The game starts with you skydiving into this skyscraper in Dubai, and the map looks absolutely beautiful, and it's such a unique and fun idea for a Hitman level. My personal favorite was this secret club where you have to infiltrate and kill ICA agents who are disguised and trying to hunt you down. It's such a unique mission, and it's a nice change of pace from the usual assassinate target mission. And it was a lot of fun picking out who the agents were from a crowd and then hear them start to panic over comms as you pick them apart and take them out one by one.
Agent Thames, report, are you there?
Each level's atmosphere is immersive and well thought out and set the perfect stage for a badass assassination. Guess I'm gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. There is no escape. The graphics in Hitman 3 look pretty good. It's no Cyberpunk 2077 or Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but there's still a lot of beautiful sights and some breathtaking moments, and the rain effects on one of the final missions look really good. The graphics aren't a huge change from Hitman 2, but it's still noticeable, especially if you're playing with a higher resolution or on one of the next-gen consoles. I played this game on PC, and the performance was pretty decent. With my RTX 2070 Super and i5 9600K at 1440p and mostly ultra settings, I averaged around 70 to 80 FPS, and that really depends on how many AI are in the area. In terms of bugs, I was very impressed. For a game that came out not even 2 weeks ago, it feels really polished, and I can't recall a single bug. Well, except for that guy changing his accent mid-sentence.
Sir, this is security. Just calling to let you know your new girl.
You like what you're looking at?
And I had no crashes during my playthrough. One of the great things about this trilogy is that you can carry over your progression and missions from Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 onto Hitman 3. And while trying to transfer my progression from Hitman 2 to Hitman 3 was an annoying thing to try and figure out, I eventually got it to work, and from there it was relatively easy. So, should you buy Hitman 3? I say yes, and it was a lot of fun and well worth buying. It didn't introduce a whole lot of new stuff, and you can basically get the same experience from the first two games, but it was worth playing for the new levels and the conclusion to the story trilogy. If you haven't played Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 yet, I'd recommend playing those first so you can understand the story, and you really aren't missing out on anything gameplay wise that you would get in Hitman 3. And I still to this day enjoy playing missions from the first two games. I'm still nowhere near close to completing all the locations and all the different ways you can do them. All the Hitman games are also available with PlayStation VR, which is very cool. I was disappointed that they aren't available with PC VR. Who knows, maybe we'll get that in a future update. But that about wraps up my review on Hitman 3. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, I would appreciate it if you left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And other than that, have a great day and happy hunting, Hitman.